It's inevitable. Matthew Tkachuk will be placed on long-term injury reserve at some point this summer. It's just the question is when. With that being said, can Bill Zito, the Magic GM, make something happen via trade, maybe an unrestricted free agent signing? These hypotheticals I'm going to dive into for specific players on specific teams that have an expiring contract this year. Can they happen? Maybe. Like I said, these are all hypotheticals, a little bit of a fun kind of look into maybe these are guys we would look at to help the Panthers in the beginning of the season while Matthew Tkachuk is recovering from off-season surgery on that adductor and that sports hernia. Guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Panthers Digest. As always, I'm your host, Greg Andrews. Hit that subscribe button down below. You guys need to stay up to date with anything and everything that has to do with your back-to-back Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. Again, guys, this whole thing I'm talking about right now is really about some hypotheticals, just some ideas, players I've looked into, and I said, that could be an interesting fit for the Florida Panthers, and it could potentially help them in certain scenarios. And yes, I'm going to have to try to weigh in the Evan Rodriguez situation. Boquist, some of the other guys on the roster, I've taken a look at it. If I forget to bring things up, I do apologize, but again, these are hypothetical situations where possible trades that our GM could push and maybe bring in someone. Again, he's done magic before. Brad Marchand, nobody ever would have seen him in a Panthers jersey, but it happened. We got Seth Jones, got him in here, a $9.5 million AAV defenseman that we're only paying $7 million for. Guys, remember, Chicago got 26.7% of his contract that they are still stuck paying for. That's why it was a genius move by Bill Zito. So anyways, moving forward, with Bill Zito looking at unrestricted free agents right now, there's not a whole lot there. And remember, guys, if and when Matthew Tkachuk goes on long-term injury reserve, we have $9.5 million. We can go over where we currently are. And if we look at Evan Rodriguez and all that stuff, take that out. Where we currently are is at $3.75 million over, roughly there. I don't know the exact number. I don't have it right in front of me. But you take the contract that is Matthew Tkachuk's, you take the number we are over and subtract it from that contract, and whatever remains is what we are allowed to go over. So what I'm doing is taking a roundabout number of around $5.5 to $5.7 million that we are allowed to go over the cap to potentially find not a replacement, but a player to come in to take Matthew Tkachuk's spot while he recovers from off-season surgery. That's kind of how it works. That's kind of a layman's term about how it goes down with LTIR. You're allowed to go over the cap by a specific amount. If you're already over the cap, you subtract that from the player's contract that is going on LTIR. So, got around $5 to $6 million roughly to play with. So each scenario I'm giving you guys now, again, I've looked into this. I just thought they're interesting scenarios to think about because I've looked at the unrestricted free agents that are still out there for wingers. And to me, I'm really taking more of a look at the right wing position because we have a bunch of centers on this team that can play the wing spot on the left or the right, either one. Not Bill Zito, excuse me. Paul Maurice has done that before. He's moved some guys around. We have a handful of guys that do play that left wing position, and only one in Mackie Samoskevich that is officially listed as a right wing player. So I'm like, why not bring in a guy that plays right wing? Why not? And that shoots right as well. I know a lot of you said, right wing and left wing. Playing right shot, left shot really makes a big difference. I've already gone through this, guys. It's marginal at best, but when you're playing a team that is mostly left shot and then all of a sudden a right shot comes in there, it could throw a goaltender off because he might forget that guy's a right shot. Who knows, especially going through traffic. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a look right at this right now, go right into the first guy. Here we go. Eeli Tolvanen, young guy, 26 years old. I know he's not the biggest guy at 5'10", 182 pounds. His contract is at $3.5 million last year on it, guys. He plays right wing. This past year, 23 goals and 12 assists. Time on ice at 14-19 per game. I like him a lot because he is young. Like I said, 5'10", 182 pounds, not the biggest. He does shoot left. So excuse me if I did say he does shoot right. He shoots left. I'm sorry, out of the other two guys that I will show you, he's the only one that does shoot left. Young, a very shifty, elusive player, has really great hands, and he has got great offensive instinct and a phenomenal wrist shot, as you will see right here. These are some of his highlights. I know some of these are kind of broken plays on the other end from the defenseman, but really great wrist shot. He could play left wing or right wing. He gets into dangerous scoring positions, you will see. And not ideal size or speed, but he can play, he plays too much in the periphery at times, so he's got some upside to him and some downside, but I think a player that could potentially be molded, and that's something that Bill Zito looks into. Young guys, chip on their shoulder, a lot of potential, but need a little tiny bit more of work in certain other areas of their game to make him a more well-rounded NHL player. And he has had tenure in the NHL, guys. He has, excuse me just a second, he has had some tenure here. As you can see, he's had several years in the NHL, and numbers not the biggest pop off the charts things, but still solid seasons nonetheless. He hasn't been all over the league, like he's been traded from team to team to team to team. He's played for 2 teams in his entire career. Postseason numbers, not something that jumps off the page. Like I said, in 14 games a couple of years ago, 3 goals, 5 assists. His plus minus isn't the greatest every postseason, but his regular season numbers are decent. He can get out there. He's a good goal scorer. Like I said, he puts his body in good position on that offensive side, going towards the net. Got a great wrist shot, very quick snap. And again, I like him just to think about a guy you could bring in at the $3.5 million mark, give or take. His AAV looks like it could still be around there. And again, coming to Florida, some of these guys might take a little bit of a salary cap help. But again, he's got 1 year left on his deal at $3.5 million. So an interesting look. You wouldn't have to give up anything in terms of a trade, except the problem would be if you bring him on the roster and you keep Rodriguez, you keep Bjorkstrand, all those guys, you're still going to have that $3.5 million added into the cap once Matthew Tkachuk comes back. So you will have to actually trade Rodriguez and possibly a Bjorkstrand or another player, unfortunately. So I will try to take that into consideration. But again, these are all hypotheticals. So please just bear with me with all of this. So we're moving on to our next guy. And here he is. Oliver, Bjorkstrand. I love this guy. The problem is he just had major surgery for compartment syndrome. For those of you who do not understand what that surgery is about, it's a time usually for athletes or for guys who do like really high-end, hard-working workouts, very high drive, muscle activities, things like that. It's when your muscle kind of locks up. There's not a lot of blood flow. So what they actually have to do is go on and relieve that pressure that drives up in the muscle. And they literally have to cut you open and relieve that pressure by literally like opening you up and keeping an open wound. So that way the blood flow can get to the muscle, that pressure that is there, which can be life-threatening. That's how it's relieved. So it's a very, very serious surgery that happened in April, but they said he will be ready for the regular season. He's a sniper. Incredible shot. Quick and powerful. Excellent forecheck. And it's improved over the year. A lot of his game has improved in areas where it was lacking about 6 years ago, guys. And another great player that I don't see why we wouldn't take a look. So here he is, 6 feet, 175 pounds, not a huge guy, 8 years in the league, but he does lack a little bit of that size and strength for being a winger, but he is a scorer. You can see the numbers there, his ranks for the position, very solid still. I don't see why you wouldn't take a look at him, considering, yes, he's coming off an injury. Maybe we could trade for him and get him for next to nothing. He does have a $5.4 million left on his contract, so you might have to give up Evan Rodriguez. So you're getting a guy who's a little bit younger by about a year, give or take, tiny bit bigger. Numbers are kind of similar, 21 goals, 25 assists. I think these numbers are a little bit better than Evan Rodriguez. So nothing that is going to take us down a peg, but you're going to have to pay a little bit more for his salary. And that can pose a bit of a problem. So he does have a lot of experience in the league. You can see there, it says that he's out, but very good years until he got injured. and they had to do that emergency surgery, which I can't believe. Like, what a horrible surgery to go through. If you guys ever want to look into compartment syndrome, it is absolutely horrifying, the surgery that these guys have to go through. So 2022, 23, excuse me, 8 points in the playoffs, 4-4. Not tremendous numbers, but he has good time on ice. Not huge, but a really, really good shot. Great offensive guy. Like I said, he's got a very, very good forecheck. And here is a little bit to look at from him. This is him with his tenure from the Blue Jackets as well as Seattle Kraken. And you can see the sniping right up into that corner, man. Like, what a great shot. Good stick handles. Puck handling and wicked shot. I mean, look at this. Right into those top corners. What a sniper. Wow. When I saw those highlights and I was putting that together, I was like, he's an offensive threat. That's fantastic. Like I said, great in that forecheck, especially in the neutral zone. Not the best defender out there, but he really can push it in the offensive zone. He's dangerous pretty much from everywhere. He can set up his teammates as well. So another potential guy that we could trade for, and I wouldn't say, hey, why not? Yeah, $5.4 million is more. That's putting more pressure on the salary cap, especially like, what are you going to do when Matthew Tkachuk returns? So that can be a bit of a problem. But again, these are all hypotheticals. The next guy, I really, really like this dude. I'm just going to show you his highlights. Aren't nothing that jumps out at you too much, but he's a big guy. This is Alex Tuch, guy. 6'4", 216 pounds, 29 years old. Big, strong dude. He actually just set the record for the most blocked shots in the season for the Florida 113 season. And he had 73 hits, so he does use that big body. Really good shot, as you can see there. Attacks the net when he has the puck, attacks the net when he doesn't have the puck. I mean, another good player that I think could really help this Panthers team, because Matthew Tkachuk, before his injury, could sit in front of the net and he tried to put some of those puck homes, those loose pucks, be in the right place at the right time, or he would try to set up his teammates, and that's what he did a lot this playoffs. I mean, great assist numbers for him. So Alex Tuch's another guy. He's a good setup guy too. He's got solid numbers, which I'll show you right here. 36 and 31, 67 points on the season, almost 20% shooting percentage on the season. Really good numbers overall, plus minus of plus 16. Time on ice, 19-15. That's a lot of time on ice. So he could really benefit by being that player that can stay on the ice for longer periods of time when called upon. He is faster than his size dictates. It's 6'4", 216 pounds. He is pretty quick. He's had some injuries over the years. Again, another player that I think Bill Zito could take a look at and say, hey, he's a big guy. We could put him on that right wing. He shoots right and can work in progress for certain areas of his game, but a really big body. I think he's probably going to be the biggest forward and center that we have on the team. So not a bad idea to bring in a guy like him, because why not have a big body that comes in there? There you go. So those are some of his numbers here for position rank. Really solid. 7 years in the league, has experience. You can see his goals, assists, points, all of that stuff for his NHL career. Really, really nice. I'm sorry, that's for this past season, excuse me. And yeah, I mean, I don't see why you don't take a look at this guy. Again, all of these guys are on one-year contracts, and his is about $4.75 million for this last year. You bring him in, maybe you get Buffalo to retain part of his contract. Again, a big guy. Great presence in front of the net, can control the puck, good shot, big, strong dude, will still lay the body out. I mean, he's not as physical as I think you would like him to be, considering his size, but he does put his body on the line defensively, which I think the Panthers do need more guys that are willing to do that, especially in that center or forward position. But overall, I mean, he's got good numbers year in and year out for the last 3 years, and he's been on a team that is looking to do more. And I think it's something that I don't think that Buffalo would say no if we were like, yeah, you know what, we'll trade you and give you Evan Rodriguez and another guy, because that's something where, yes, we are almost $4 million over the cap. You get rid of Evan Rodriguez, You get rid of Bovequist. I hate to say it. And you pick up Alex Tuch. He brings in size. He brings up strength. He brings in a great shot. Different style of play than Evan Rodriguez, obviously. But I don't see it as a total loss. And then the only problem we run into, again, with everything is how do you get back under the salary cap once Matthew Tkachuk returns? Because if you shuffle these guys around a little bit, where is Alex Tuch going to end up being when Matthew Tkachuk comes back and is on that second line? Do you push him to the fourth? Do you push somebody from that third line that's already got all of that chemistry between Marchand, Lundell, and Lustranen? It's so hard to figure out what to do. That's why I'm saying these are all hypotheticals. I haven't taken every single minute detail into context of how are these players truly going to be able to work on this roster. That's why ideally I don't think the Panthers really do anything until they really figure out what happens to Matthew Tkachuk, how long is he going to be out for, how are they going to really be able to clear up the cap space in the long term, because you take on a guy with a trade or an unrestricted free agent, you're going to have to lose someone somewhere. So I think they just keep everybody there. And when the time comes, when Matthew Tkachuk comes back from LTIR, you deal with it as the time becomes looming, when you're just maybe 3 or 4 weeks out from his return, and say, okay, we got to figure out what to do. But in my mind, I think that this could be a very good pickup for the team. Any one of these guys would be great. To me, I like Alex Tuch probably the most just because of his size, and he's got the speed. He's got a good shot. He can be physical. Again, not as physical as I think we'd want him to be at 6'4", 216 pounds. And he does need a little bit of help here and there in some parts of his game, but a good big body to be in front of the net. And yeah, likes to put his body on the line on defense. So things to look at, things to consider. Again, all hypotheticals. So don't come at me too hard on these. But yeah, weigh in, please, guys. Give me your opinion. What do you think? Comment down below and tell me, who do you think, if the Panthers were going to make a trade, or if there's an unrestricted free agent that's out there that you guys are like, hey, that's not a bad one to look at $2 million a year or whatever it might be, because like I said, you take on Alex Tuch, who else are you going to lose? What other forward are you going to be willing to give up to have him stay on the roster once Matthew Tkachuk is healthy? And I didn't want to look at that. Again, these are hypotheticals, just at guys to put into the lineup while Matthew Tkachuk is out, not what are you going to do once he gets off of LTIR, comes back, then who do you have to lose? These are more of who is going to take his place while he's recovering. So anyways, that is it for this episode of Panthers Digest. Thank you all for joining me so much. I appreciate all of your support. And do not forget to subscribe down below. I appreciate you guys so much. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Go Cats.